I want to just take a moment to reflect on where we've actually come. So over the last couple of years, when we've been at these events, we talk about it's really important to get the visual aspect of flight shopping out there. It's great for the airlines, it's great for the sales channels. But I want to kind of reflect on the fact that we've actually done it. And we're often hard on ourselves, I think, when it comes to retailing as airlines and as technology providers. But the efforts of a lot of people sitting in this room, again, the technology provider, sales channel, airline side, and also ATPCO, all the work that's been done to get us to where we are. It's pretty fantastic. So thank you and congratulations to us all. But there is a but. This is only the beginning. We've always thought there's so much more we can do when it comes to, again, this visual language that we're talking about. And I'm very pleased to be joined by two people who know far more about it than I do, and we'll hear from them shortly. All right, want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Rania Chehade from Air Canada. I'm part of the technology arm of Air Canada and leading distribution platforms and also enabling the revenue platforms and sales platforms as we embark and we continue our journey on modern airline retailing.
Manish?
Before I introduce myself, thank you, ATPCO, for arranging this Elevate every year, and most importantly, keeping it affordable for the attendees. Hi, everyone. I'm Manish Nagpal, VP of Product at Spotnana. I was here a couple of years back, and I had to explain in detail what Spotnana does. Hopefully, this year, you guys know what we are. We are a travel technology company with the mission of making travel simple, freedom, and trust. And as part of the VP of Spotnana, my job is to bring to life all the wonderful product you airlines keep building consistently for our customers to keep their trust and earn their customer satisfaction.
All right. So, and it's wonderful to be able to present the actual context. So we have Air Canada on Spotnana here just as a nice visual so we can all understand, look how far we've come. But the more important question is where we're going. So let's just start to both panelists. What is the most impactful development that you've seen over the last 12 to 18 months when it comes to visuals in flight shopping?
Sure. I will start a little bit building up on what you've been hearing since yesterday. Right? We've been talking like in terms of things that happened in the last 12 to 8 months. A lot of things happen, even though a lot of us think that we still need to accelerate things to get faster on our journey. But many things happen in terms of technology, in terms of where we're heading to move towards retailing. But I would say if I want to choose one thing, I would say it's a complete mindset shift for airlines where they are now thinking and want it to be more and acting like true retailers. Maybe I'll build up on this and alongside with what you're seeing on the screen, right, in terms of the product attributes and how we've actually moved along in our retail journey. Typically and traditionally, airlines we've been more having a static merchandising, right? We file our prices ahead of time. We have predefined products and we have brands that are locked in. And even though demands shift, our ability or pricing or even how we construct our products lags and always come not in real time. I think the game changer here is really now we have access to data. We have access to shopping data. We can actually use that to our benefit in understanding more in a contextual way what the customer is really searching in real time, what's the context, in which channel, and even helping us with better segmentation. Why this is key is because we can actually detect demand signals way ahead in the funnel and shopping. And this is evolving around the quadrant that was shown earlier, right? How airlines are progressing in that journey to move to dynamic pricing and dynamic bundles or products. I think what this helped us now is now we can detect signals earlier and we can actually move towards dynamic pricing. We've heard earlier, even from my colleague from revenue management, that we're now doing continuous pricing. So we don't need anymore to wait for a fair file, and we don't really need to, as we adopt in our journey, we can still work with the systems we have today. We can still work with the basis of fair filing, but build up on that and do more price points through that channel and integrating more AI in our initial models in order for the willingness to pay, as well as better forecasting models. I think this is really a game changer for airlines to start thinking this way, act this way, challenge a little bit the complexity of our industry on how to move that, even though we're not necessarily all of us yet on adopting technology like product catalog, stock keeper, where eventually we'll land on even building on the fly products. So I think that's a huge evolution for our industry, and you can see it. You can see more airlines progressing towards that role and changing from saying I'm selling a seat or a fare, but I'm actually now constructing a product, and I can bring relevant content, relevant offers to the customers.
Yep. Manish, for you, what do you think the challenge and opportunities have been in the last 12 months?
Yeah, we have been hearing, right? A lot is changing. Airlines are experimenting. But in terms of visualization in particular and merchandising in particular, so we are seeing airlines are now thinking when they are experimenting, merchandising and visuals are not the afterthought, right? And I'll give you an example. Lufthansa Group, they launched Allegris. And I think they did it really the right way. So they thought through what are the visuals going to be, what are the videos going to be, and not just for their own .com, but also how they are going to play out in the indirect channel. So they made sure all the stuff was visually correct in the filings of the ATPCO, route happy, and at the same time worked with the partners, the key partners, to make sure when they launch that product, it is displayed correctly the way they want it. And it's actually win-win for everybody, right? They're launching a great premium product like Allegris, making sure that customer sees the value, not just the flight, right, at the seat time. And I think that's the way it should be, and I'm seeing that happening more and more. And thanks to ATPCO, actually, because making route happy as part of the regular membership, I think that does the trick, and that's the right move.
Thank you, appreciate that. But I think, to summarize, it's leveraging all the data and technology that we have, but then using that to inform the launch of products really is something that's very interesting, and it's exciting to see what's going to happen as airlines continue their creative journeys. Rania, to you, when you're thinking about the indirect channel, what merchandising strategies do you really believe are most effective in that kind of space?
I'll build up on what Manish just said. In our direct channels, we maybe have control over the user experience, the digital experience, and it's very important as we progress on our products and how we bundle those products to actually bring a consistent experience for the customers, but also an informed one and transparency and clarity, right? Especially that we change things along, right? Just take baggage allowance, for example. We keep on changing that. We keep on evolving the products. And we expect the customer to be up to speed. And as much as they engage with our brands and they trust our brands, there's a lot of changes that we can't take it for granted that the customer knows their ways through the brands and all of that. So while we have that well controlled and managed, and we've invested a lot on our .com, it's as important and even more relevant in the indirect channels, right? Because you need to bring a consistent experience to your customers, and they need to interact with your brands regardless of the channel the same way. And this is where augmenting that with rich content, but also surface the attributes and the value of those attributes, so the customer have clarity, not just at shopping, but also throughout the whole funnel is important. So this is where tools like Route Happy that brings consistency, not just from an Air Canada perspective, but across all airlines, because a customer in an indirect channel is actually have the ability to compare, if you want, all airlines side by side. And we will be naive to think that the customer knows of our products by heart, right? Especially that we change often. So I think having a clear data, having clear attributes, being transparent in those amenities, not only will bring brands, it strengthens the brand and trust, but it also helps them in conversion and in upselling them, because they need to know from the get-go, what am I getting, what are the attributes, and at the next step, if I engage with that product, on the next step, they need to know that, what seats can I get? Why this seat is more expensive than in other seats? What are really the value that this seats are bringing me? And visual comes on top of that. So I think from an indirect channels, it's very important to invest as much as we invest in our own channels and also bring accuracy and consistency between both channels so the customer feels that they can trust it.
I like that. Would you agree, Manish, on that perspective in terms of that consistency and clarity if I'm coming from a channel perspective?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how many you were counting when Bridget said value, right? I stopped counting after 10. But she nailed it. She literally nailed it. So it's not about showing the flight, right? It's all about showing the value. Because especially in the corporate world, I mean, they're not browsing. They are there to see quickly and make a decision. And unless you can show that product value concisely, consistently, I mean, you are not serving your customer well. So that's very important aspect.
Yeah. Maybe a follow-up to that. So you mentioned talking and communicating that value. At which points in the shopping journey are most important to surface that value? Especially, let's say, for a corporate traveler, since this is the example you mentioned.
So I'll say search is still the prominent place, like making sure you are consistently showing all the cabins, all the brands, and not just showing along with the visuals, of course, that play a key role, but all the attributes, what's making them different, right? What value that brand is bringing it to you. And then after that, seat map is another very important place where you can upsell and show the product. But in the corporate world, upsell is a little bit more challenging than in the leisure. The reason being they have policies. So oftentimes you are not allowed to actually buy that paid seat, or you are not allowed to upgrade on the corporate card. So that's where the innovation by the providers like Spotnana play a key role, where you have to allow that upgrade to happen. So yeah, one aspect is show the value so that user can upgrade, but then also making it happen. And that's a little bit challenging. I mean, to give you a precise example, if you want to upgrade a cabin and your policy doesn't allow it, then you have a dilemma of you have to support this multi-form of payment within the same transaction, and that's not easy. The airline, you have to pay the full amount, but somehow at the back, you have to divide that amount, the difference on the personal card, and then the fare which is within the policy on the corporate card, and settle it and expense it and all that stuff, good stuff. But again, it's challenging, but it's a fun at the same time to provide such a service to our customers.
Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
If I may add for corporate, I think things are evolving, right, on the corporate side and in even the behavior and the patterns. I mean, I agree with Manish. First of all, ad shopping is important because they need to know that the bundle that I'm seeing or what is being proposed to me is actually within my policy entitlement, and that's important. And there are ways to do it, and there are visually how you present it as well. I still believe that sometimes even for business travelers, entitlement and policy could be interpreted different ways. So even when you're showing them different brands, most of them where, let's say let's say two brands are entitled and they're within their corporate policy, how do they make a decision? Because it could impact not only their travel experience, but also in savings for their company. For example, the flexibility of exchanges and all that. So am I choosing the right even brand within my corporate policy? So I think there's an opportunity there. But the other opportunity, I think the landscape and how the patterns of the business behavior is changing. To Manish's point today, there are even some corporations that allow you have, for example, leisure. I could extend my stay and benefit from that. And I may want to then upgrade, or I might want to bring, not just a carry-on baggage, and I'm willing to pay for it on my own dime so you just need to adapt the technology to that change of behavior for business travel. And then of course you can complement that through that journey on, addressing that through upsell or so presenting them those offers so they can actually add them to their shopping cart, even though it's not necessarily covered by their company, but covered by their own, and multiple form of payment becomes key, for example, in such a flow.
It makes a lot of sense. I think my question would then be, how do you show that? I think that getting that, because I think so often we've been saying, okay, the flight product is the flight product. Once you're on board, that seat is the same whether you're a leisure traveler or a business travel. But Now that we're actually talking more about the experience, I think it raises an interesting question about visually, how do you tell that story?
Yeah, and I think there's an opportunity there on how to do it, especially that now with products and where we're moving from retail, you can create corporate bundles, right? And how do you differentiate a corporate bundle than your regular branded fares that they're used to, and how do they interact with that? How do you, on top of that, lay on also add-ons that they can actually choose, but they're not necessarily part of their corporate policy? I don't think we have that very straightforward yet, but I think there's a clear opportunity on how this can be done in a visualized, and it's at the UI level, and it's also the data that will be giving you that trigger of, if I call it this way, or identifier, so visually you can present it. And I think there's an opportunity for Root Happy to actually evolve around that, even including the loyalty component to it.
Yeah, and
especially for business travelers, there are that is very meaningful for them, and they want to see that also through the presentation of that offers for them.
Yeah, it was, and I think the previous session was really interesting in terms of how we're thinking of evolving in terms of bundles and bringing those things into play. But I think it's an interesting question to us as well. Is like what, and maybe from your perspective, looking at multi-airline, what are the attributes and things that continue to need to evolve to support, again, the discussion and the visualization of all these new aspects of things that we have?
Before new attributes, I'll say airlines need to spend time and resources to make sure the attributes they want to show are filed correctly in Route Happy. They do a very good job for their own channels, but then when it comes to indirect channels, most of the airlines are spending some time and resources, but not all. We have such a good framework in this industry, and if you compare it with hotels, you don't have anything like that, and you struggle. You find visuals, and it's so important there. So things like that, what we have, make it consistent, make it filing correctly. That's the number one step. Have adoption by more and more airlines so that you can get that same experience across the airlines. And then there are few actually attributes specific to corporate travels, like large enterprise customers have entitlements, right? They get free seat, even though they don't have any loyalty attached to it. So it will really cool if airlines can file certain things which can show corporate customer clearly that you are getting these seats free, not because you have a loyalty with the airline, because your company has a contract with the airlines and they are giving you this good benefit. And that increases adoption, that increases customer satisfaction. And there are several ideas, right? The airline can go to even specific corporations that what the contract says, what the entitlement sets for that corporation, and show it clearly in terms of attributes or visuals to that end traveler so that they feel good about it.
Yeah, there is a lot of work to continue to be done, I think, on the airline and the channel side to evolve this. But really quick, in just a couple sentences, one thing that we can do in the next 12 months, when we're on stage next year, we can say that we've accomplished something new and exciting. What would it be? What could we do to support both on the airline and the channel side?
With AI, and how much time I have?
42 seconds. So, but AI, if everyone's playing the drinking game, yes, you can drink now. Go on with AI.
So AI is a big tailwind, and as we are hearing, and we are really working. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday, somebody from AWS said, and I don't remember the name, they said, won't it be cool that the model shifts from, I call it pull to push, because we know that in the calendar, we are all coming here, and the AI, your own EA, travel agent, recognizes that, finds 3 top recommendations, pushes you through your Slack, WhatsApp, or an email, and asks you pick one. But at the same time, you need to do a job very clearly demonstrating why we picked those three options for you, right? And that's where the visualization, retailing, and all other aspects play a key role. But that's what we are trying to do, and I think we can make it a reality within this year.
Rania, last word for
I would say a good collaboration on how we can evolve around the Route Happy roadmap and bring some of the things that we've been talking about, like how do we bring loyalty into that mix, and how do we present it, especially in indirect channels, especially for corporate, for example, in that sense. I think that's one element. The second element that I think it's a tremendous opportunity, it was mentioned earlier also, is there is a challenge with how we do cross-sell, and when we talk about co-chair and interlining and joint ventures, it's very clear in our head, it's not clear in the head of a customer. So how do you present an offer for them so they can understand what's my baggage allowance, even though it's an Air Canada flight but operated by another airline or by your JV? But even on the corporate side, we do have contracts that are global contracts. How do we make that value proposition more relevant and presented visually and also from a attributes perspective, so they clearly understand that what they're seeing and what they are engaging with and selecting is alongside their entitlement. I think there's some opportunities to collaborate on that.
Excellent. Well, just in quick summary, I think what we've heard is that as airlines are evolving with all sorts of new data and technology, there's a tremendous opportunity to continue the evolution of this visual language. Lots of opportunity for collaboration, lots of opportunity for development. So I want to thank the panel, thank both of you for joining us today, and wishing everyone a continue a great conference.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.